Hello, everyone, and welcome to What After Dentistry. Now, today we are going to talk about business analysis as a career. This is basically as a business analyst, you can work in the IT sector, wherein the major responsibility of a business analyst is to act as a liaison between the functional team and the technical team. So, today we will be giving you a demo of what all this business analysis fundamental program includes, what is a career of business analyst looks like, what is the roadmap or the career path, what are the major responsibilities of a business analyst, and so on and so forth. So I welcome you to this live session, and let's get started. Now, before I move ahead, make sure that you like our page so that you keep getting notifications of whenever we go live with all these kinds of informative sessions. So now, without further ado, let's get started. So hello everyone, as you all know, my name is Dr. Shireen Saini. I have been working as a healthcare business analyst for more than 7 years now. I have also been given trainings on the health IT, which is health informatics, and I also give trainings on business analysis. So before I move ahead into the presentation and give you the overview of what business analysis looks like, there is a very famous, quote by Steve Blaise, who is an expert in the IT industry, who has around 43 or 44 years of experience in the IT industry as a business analyst, and of course, as you know, he's been heading various projects. So he says that the real answer to asking the right questions is simple, and that is you keep asking. So you keep asking the questions till you get the right or the relevant information that you are actually looking for. And that is what a business analyst does. So in the end, all the right questions are those that get you relevant information. So this is what exactly a business analyst, role looks like, wherein he or she is responsible to ask questions as much as possible so as to get all the relevant information which they are basically looking for. So now getting into the agenda, we will be talking about the background of how business analysis started, then a small introduction to business analysis in terms of what it is, what are the responsibilities that a business analyst is supposed to do, role of a business analyst, the business analyst career path, and I'll give you a small flavor of the course that we have specially designed as per the industry requirements right now. So starting off with the background, let's understand that why business analysts are needed in the IT industry. So this is a study which was done in 2015 by Standish Group. This chaos study basically it has studied how the IT industry has evolved. They have studied what are the various challenges and what are the failures that are faced by the IT industry. And according to this group report, this has been an eye opener for the IT industry, wherein they basically, they've got to realize that only 29% of the projects are successful projects. 52% of the projects that they studied through were under the bucket of being challenged, and 19% of the projects were either failed or they were impaired or they were cancelled. So you see, this is only 29% where the projects have been successful. And why, or what is the, what are the top 5 indicators or elements according to this group that they have identified what makes a project successful is user involvement. So how much are we involving the users? When we say users, it's just not the people around the project, but also people who will actually be using the system. So it is very important to involve the end user segment so as to understand what exactly is their requirement or what exactly are they looking for. The second most important indicator is executive management support. So there has to be a support from the executive management. When we talk about the executive, these are mainly the top management people, the CXOs, all the CXOs and all the VPs who are basically responsible or the decision makers of a particular project. So it is very, very important that we have their support in the project, so as if any point of time of the project needs any kind of major decision to be made, these people should be there to guide and to basically support the entire project timeline. The third major indicator is clear statement of requirements. So it is very, very important to make any project successful. It is important that we have clear cut requirements of what exactly needs to be done, what exactly the user is looking for. So that is how, or where business analysis comes into picture, that the major responsibility lies into gathering the requirements, understanding what the project is all about, why this needs to be done, what exactly needs to be done, is something that needs to be clearly stated at the start of the project. Of course, proper planning of the entire project with each phase of the software development lifecycle, keeping in mind creating a proper plan of the entire phase, the proper planning of the team, the resources, proper allocation of the resources which are available. So all that comes under proper planning. And then the last is realistic expectations. Whatever expectations are required, there has to be realistic. There has to be something which is you know uh, something that one can achieve actually in that particular time frame which is required. So this is very, very important, wherein realistic expectations is something that one should look into. So these are the top 5 indicators of successful projects. The top 5 indicators of why child projects are bucketed, or they are basically marked, or they are indicated as challenged, is because there has been no user input. As I earlier said, it is very important to have the user involvement in place to basically understand what exactly the users are looking for, making them understand, and then of course understanding what their need is. So if there is no user input, that is one of the biggest challenge or biggest disadvantage of a project, wherein it can be bucketed as a challenged project. Incomplete requirements and specifications, changing requirements and specifications, lack of executive support, and technical incompetence. So all the 5 top indicators of a successful project, if these are not there in any project, that project is tend to bucketed as a challenged project. So you can see that why user input, requirements, executive support, having that stakeholder engagement is something very, very important to make any kind of a project as a successful project. The top factors in a failed project, basically when we talk about the failed project, these are generally those projects where they were not successfully implemented at all, or they were cancelled, or there was some or the other failure in the entire project that could not lead to the completion of the project. So the very first factor which basically categorizes as a failed project is incomplete requirements. So the requirements were not completely taken, they were not completely understood, documented, nothing was done on that perspective of requirements. Again, lack of user involvement, lack of resources, there were no proper resources, there was not a proper timeline that was set, there was not one particular person or somebody who can be responsible or accountable for a particular project timeline or project phase. So lack of resources, then unrealistic expectations, lack of executive support, and changing requirements and specifications. So these are some of the factors that can lead to a project either as a challenged project or completely failed project. So if you can see this is just how this is the requirement of a customer, that a customer requires a swing with three little or three, shells on a tree and one particular branch. So if you see, this is the requirement by the customer. So how the customer has explained it, this is how it looks like, the project. How the project leader has understood. So this is how the project leader has understood that they need something like, something like this particular one needs a shelf which basically requires only one shelf, whereas the customer wanted three shelves. Then exactly this, if there's another resource, how the analyst designed it. So this is how the analyst, somebody who's on the analyst part, who is going to analyze the project, this is how the analyst is going to provide, and this is what, according to his explanation, his or her, this is what the project looks like. But exactly it's not the one that is what is required actually. This is what, according to the programmer, how the project should be. A business consultant will describe it in this format. The project, there was no documentation. Most of the times we do see in IT industry that the project is not documented. What was installed, how the customer was billed, and how it was supported. So the no support or very minimal support, but exactly this is what customer really needed. So you see, even the customer cannot explain the need unless and until there's somebody to actually question the customer that, do you need a swing with three shelves, one shelf, two shelves, or you need a swing with a simple tire. So this is how exactly the entire project is. So this is the need of the customer that needs to be fulfilled, but exactly how it is getting fulfilled you can see with all the images here. So there is where a business analyst, comes into picture. He or she is responsible to make sure that this is the need that they are going to cater to. This is the need that they are going to look into and basically help or ask questions from the customers or the stakeholders to exactly identify what the need of a customer is. So this is how a project life cycle, a revised project life cycle looks like, wherein we have the very first two phases of describing and defining the need or the project. So this, the describe and define requirements or the project need basically is fulfilled by business analysis or a business analyst. And after that, after defining the project, it's the general, the project management life cycle, when we have a planning phase, we have a build phase or a development phase, then there is a testing phase and an implementation phase. So this is a part of project management which was there earlier, but now, after looking at the need of the, business analysis, or looking at the need that there has to be someone involved, wherein a proper requirements can be gathered, a proper documentation of the project should be done. Looking after at this need, these are the two phases which has been defined before the actual project management cycle starts. So here is a small introduction to business analysis. So let's learn what business analysis is and why is it important. So what is business analysis? It is a set of tasks, knowledge and techniques which are required to identify business needs and determine solutions that deliver value to business or the stakeholders. So that's the exact, definition, not the exact definition, but this is the exact responsibility of anybody who's working in this space of business analysis, that they are going to gather the set of tasks, or using their knowledge, the techniques which basically will help them to identify what exactly is the need of the business or the stakeholders who are involved in the business in that particular project. And after identifying the needs, They also recommend solutions, what can be done in the best, way where it can deliver value to the people who are basically responsible for working on that project. It is performed by a variety of initiatives, most commonly operational, tactical, or strategic. So, operational is if there's any kind of an operational, kind of uh, any process change or any kind of a operational workflow needs to be defined. Tactical and strategic is related to wherein a proper, strategic decisions need to be made. For example, developing of any kind of a dashboard for the executive management or maybe in any area of the project or the IT industry. Then it is performed to define and validate solutions that meets business needs, goals or objectives. So this is exactly what business analysis is all about, wherein one is responsible to identify the task, one is responsible to gather knowledge and use the various techniques to exactly identify what is needed in the project, document the need, and then once everything is documented, once everything is defined, it is identified, it is important then to recommend or to determine certain solutions that will deliver the value to the business or to the stakeholders who are involved in the business. So the importance of business analysis, any business analysis, technique or a process or a phase will help to understand the structure and dynamics of the organization in which a system is to be deployed. So for example, if you are working in a finance sector or maybe in the healthcare sector, it is very important to understand how the finance industry works, what are the various terminologies that are used. Similarly, even in the healthcare scenario, it is important to understand what exactly is the structure of a particular healthcare facility. How is it different from the other healthcare facilities? Like for example, there are so many healthcare facilities like a single clinic wherein we just have one general practitioner. Similarly, if you go to a corporate hospital, there are n number of departments, and then every department will have their own heads involved. So understanding the entire structure and the dynamics of a particular organization where the project or the system needs to be implemented. Once we understand the structure, the other importance of business analysis is to understand what exactly are the problems and why the organization is trying to create a new process or maybe a new system in place. So identifying the current problems in the target organization, and then identifying the improvement potentials, what can be done to solve that problem. Ensure that the customer, end user and developers, they have a common understanding of the target organization. So this is very very important. So as a business analyst, because a business analyst is someone who is going to work as a bridge, who's going to bridge the gap between the functional team, between the client and the technical team. So everybody who's involved in the project should, everyone should be on the same page, and that is why they should share a common understanding, so that at the end when the project is delivered, it should be exactly what the customer demanded for. So if you see this diagram, it very basically explains this is the IT person, this is a business analyst and a stakeholder for whom the project needs to be done. So according to the IT, this is what they are going to do. A business analyst is explaining this to the stakeholder that this is how things are going to be. From the stakeholder, the same thing comes through business analyst to the IT guy, and then once both from the IT person and from the stakeholders, when all the requirements are taken, identified, and they are documented, understood exactly, so you see that all three have the same picture in mind, that this is what exactly needs to be done. And this is the main responsibility of a business analyst, to make sure that whatever the customer demands is understood by the internal team as well as the external team. So role of a business analyst, what does a business analyst do, who is a business analyst, what is the responsibilities, is what we are going to talk about in this particular section. So who is a business analyst? As I have been saying the same thing, A business analyst is someone who works as a liaison between the IT and the business stakeholders. They take responsibility to analyze a business problem and document the business process or systems in place, assess the business model or the integration with the technology, and then recommend solution. They understand the need and deliver value to all the stakeholders who are involved, whether these are internal stakeholders of the team or the external stakeholders. So these are few of the responsibilities of a business analyst. A business analyst basically is responsible to define and scope the business areas. So, what all needs to be done, what is the scope of the project, everything is defined. Elicit requirements, wherein somebody or one who's working as a business analyst is responsible to gather the exact requirements from the customers by asking questions, by using various techniques like, you know, doing the observation. Observation is one of the techniques, either conducting interviews or maybe conducting brainstorming sessions or maybe workshops or focus group discussions, or just directly going to the end users and asking them what exactly do they require. So this is this is one of the core responsibility of a business analyst, wherein they are responsible to gather or elicit requirements through various techniques. Once the requirements are gathered, it is important for a business analyst to document these requirements, to analyze what can be done, what cannot be done, to do a small feasibility study from their end, and then, of course, keeping the internal team also in place, and then document the final requirements that, the major requirements that needs to be captured in the entire project. Once these are documented, these need to be communicated to the stakeholders. So these are both internal and external stakeholders. Take a acceptance on the requirements. uh, Try to take some kind of requirements, they should be frozen at the very start of the project itself, so that at the end there are not much of the changes. So it's very important that one needs to communicate the requirements to the stakeholders, get an acceptance on those requirements, and try, and if possible, try to freeze the requirements as much as possible. Once all this is done, it is important to identify the right solution that is going to help the business stakeholders in place, which is going to deliver the value to them. Review the test scenarios which are prepared by the QA team, which is quality assurance team, and validate the solution with the expected need or standard. So once the solution has been developed, before it goes live on the on site, or maybe before the implementation of that project or of that solution or project, it is very important that we internally first validate and verify the solution, the developed solution, with what exactly was needed. So these are the essential skills of a business analyst, wherein with time, of course, the business analyst is asked to have some of the analytical skills, wherein while the discussion itself, they can analyze that is this requirement can be captured in some in how much time can it be done, or maybe performing or doing a kind of an analysis wherein, for example, what kind of data reporting needs to be done. So this will not happen on like the very first time or as a fresher if somebody is working as a business analyst, but then eventually if one grows in this area, they will have to develop these analytical skills. So this is one of the essential skills which is which people generally ask for, or companies basically look for. Then we have the technical skills. So by technical skill doesn't mean that you need to code or learn some kind of a language, but technical skills is proper technical skills of a business analysis in terms of gathering the requirements. You should be capable enough to gather as much requirements as possible. You should be aware of various techniques that are used to gather requirements. And then, of course, when it comes to documentation, there is a way of documenting these requirements in various formats like BRD document. We have business requirement documents, which is a BRD, then software requirement specification, which is SRS, functional requirement specification, which is known as a FRS. Then there are various kind of workflow diagrams which are created, for example, cross-functional diagrams. Then you have a flow chart. So what's the difference between a flow chart and a a cross-functional diagram. So all that technical skills in using the tools, creating wireframes, various tools are used to create these kind of diagrams, and for wireframing also there is a tool which is used. So all those technical skills for business analysis and not related to coding or learning any kind of a language. Then of course you need to have good communication skills, because this will help you to gather requirements correctly. This will help you to communicate the requirements, because every now and then a business analyst is will be responsible to communicate with all the teams involved. So whether it's a development team or the designing team or the at the client side, or maybe the quality assurance team. So at every area, business analysis has some form of the communication going on with various teams or stakeholders who are involved. So that's why one needs to have a good command on communication skills. Then decision making skills in terms of whether this needs to be done right away, or we can wait for a particular feature, or maybe wait for a certain period of time to make that particular change. So that decision making skills will obviously happen, or they will flow once you start going in this particular area. But then it is required that at least a verify few things. Or for example, if I talk right in the project management, then there is a way where we define the backlog of the requirements. So when we have these backlog of the requirements, as a decision making skills of a business analyst, he or she is required to identify which is the next requirement that will be taken in the particular sprint. So this is an agile way of agile methodology, where a business analyst is responsible to create a backlog of the requirements and then identify which requirements should be taken on priority. So that is how small little element of decision making comes into picture. And then of course you have problem solving skills. So as I said, it is very important that as a business analyst we identify what is the problem, and then how this problem can be solved with the help of various solutions. So problem solving skills. So these are the 5 essential skills which are required for a business analyst in the industry. So let's now look at the business analysis or business analyst career path, how it looks like. So before I get into this, just I will have to share another screen with you. Just give me a 2 minutes. And so, okay, before I share the screen, let's just have a look at the figures. So it is expected that there is an exponential growth of 14% growth from 2018 till 2028 in the field of business analysis. The median income for a business analyst is $68,800, and that's a lot of money. The lowest, if you see, even the lowest 10% lies into the range of 48 $1,360, which is again a good amount of money to start with. And then the highest 10%, they lie in the bracket of $1,52,760. So this is like, if you see even the lowest and the highest, it's not bad, right? Even the lowest is not that bad. So to start with, I think this is really really good figures, and one can really do well if they start into this career of business analysis. So all these, all this data has been taken from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS. And you can check it out. So this is how I'm going to share the screen, wherein as a junior, once if somebody starts as a junior business analyst, how are they going to, from a junior level to an intermediate level, what is the career roadmap looks like, and then from intermediate business and analyst level to the CXO level, what the career roadmap looks like. So I'm just going to share another screen, and then you can have a look at that. Just give me 2 minutes, please. So let me just, okay, I'll just share the another. So I'm just going to speak out here, and I'm going to share this, the roadmap in this when I just upload this video. You can have a look at this. So just to give you an overview of how a junior level business analyst, once they start working, they can either work as a functional analyst, they can work as a service request analyst, they can work as an agile analyst, systems analyst, business system analyst, or requirements, business requirements analyst. So anybody who works into this space, they can basically perform any kind of or they can go for any kind of a learning program in business analysis. They can go for a entry level business analysis course, and then they can basically head towards the business analyst. And so from this particular junior level business analyst, they can basically work as an intermediate business analyst. Now from a business analyst level, they can work as a intermediate functional analyst, they can work as intermediate systems analyst, intermediate business systems analyst. So all these like requirements analyst. So these are all the, at the intermediate level. From the intermediate level, a person can basically go to a senior level, so senior business analyst, senior process analyst. Then one can go to a decision support analyst, can get into decision supporting. Then finally they can basically work as a in the as a business architect, or maybe as a business analyst leadership role they can get into. And then finally they can basically go as a director or at the VP level, and from that they can go to a CXO level. So this is how the entire roadmap looks like. I'm going to share the screens, I'm going to share the the files that I have with me once this live video gets over. So I'm going to upload it, and then you can have a look at that. So just to give you an overview, from a junior level to an intermediate level to a senior business analyst level, then to a senior agile analyst level, then to a leadership role, and then finally to director, as a director or VP level, and then lastly at the CXO level. So this is how the entire roadmap basically looks like. So why should one hire a business analyst is because the entire digital transformation becomes very easy with the organization where the business analysts are hired. So any IT organization, they when they want to get into any this kind of a digital major transformation, that becomes very easy because there is someone who's absolutely just accountable for making sure that all the things or all the requirements are in place. There is someone who is time to time communicating with all the teams who are in place and making sure that things are done in a way or in the same manner that are required for a functional from the customers need point of view. So it becomes very easy. The second is it's very easy for business analysts because they are basically trained for getting the into gathering the requirements, for creating these kind of documentations, which basically helps to translate the complex processes during development into a very simplified manner for the entire teams. So translation of these kind of complex processes becomes easy, and it becomes very in a very understandable format as well for the for all the teams who are responsible. And then drives the change management. So if there's any kind of a change requirement coming into picture, for that also business analysts, they have a proper role which is defined. There's a proper process to handle any kind of a change management request or a change requirement request which comes while the project is being delivered, or maybe at the end of the project if something needs to be changed. So there's a proper process for that also in place. So these are the three major reasons of why an IT industry should hire, or why do they hire basically a business analyst. So I hope you got an overview of what business analysis is all about, what a business analyst does, what are they responsible for, what are the kind of skills that are required for a business analyst, and how does a roadmap of a business career path looks like. So keeping all these things in mind, we have basically designed a a business analysis fundamentals program, learning program for all those people who want to get into business analysis. They want to start their career as a business analyst, and this course that we have defined, we have made sure that it is industry friendly, it is candidate friendly. There are a lot of benefits if you get enrolled into this course. So let me just give you a bit of course flavor of what kind of modules or what chapters are we going to cover under this fundamentals program. So the course objectives that we are going to provide is, we will be providing you entry level opportunities in business analysis, wherein we provide you, or we make you competent with the skills and the knowledge that are required to start off or kickstart your career as a business analyst. We will help you to understand the roles and responsibilities of a business analyst, how requirements elicitation is done, what are the various techniques which are which are utilized to gather requirements, what are the documentation standards, how a document is written, what is a kind of a BRD document, how is it different from an SRS, how is it different from a FRS. So all those kind of things will get into will be taught under this particular course or a learning program. And then various process modeling efforts, what the various how a business process is modeled into various diagrams, all that will be covered under this particular program. So what is a prerequisite, or what do we require basically for a foundation level, because this is a very foundational level training that will be provided, and for this we basically don't need any kind of specific requirements. Can you enroll? Yes, surely. So anyone who is keen to make a career in business analysis, be it a fresh graduate or a working profession in the business area or in the IT stream, someone who is working, say, as someone who's a fresh graduate in the IT industry, okay, or maybe someone who is a working profession, has been working on the technical side of the projects, and now they want to come to the functional aspect of the project, so they can start their career as a business analyst. So BA is someone who anybody can do, if you just need to have those skills, and you need to be open to basically start your career as a business analyst. So this is the course structure that has been defined. So we have both mix of theoretical and practical sessions. So in the theory part, we are going to cover the introduction to business analysis, corporate structure and how a business analyst is positioned, the software development life cycle, tools and techniques that are required for a business analysis, requirement gathering techniques, functional requirements documentation, how to write user stories, UML, which is Unified Modeling Language, where we are going to cover various aspects like use cases, use case scenarios, and so on and so forth, and basic testing concepts like how to create test cases, positive test cases, negative, but just at the basic level. And then in the practical sessions, we are going to include real world case studies. We are going to conduct JAT sessions, the tools exposure, wherein we will be talking about MS Visio and Balsamic. Then a project work or an assignment will be given, so that you get hands on the foundational skills of a business analyst, and mock interview with sample questions. So we will try to give you we will try to give you an exposure to how interviews are done at the entry level. We will help you to get through the various questions that are being asked at the entry level in business analysis space. So that's it for the session today. Thank you so much for patiently listening. And if you intend to get into business analysis, or if you are interested to start your career as a business analyst, then you can reach us at contact.whatafterdentistry@gmail.com, or you can call us at any of these numbers that I have shown, that you can see on the screen. So either call us or you can mail us, whatever you feel like. We are open, or anytime, whenever you want to reach to us. So thank you so much for patiently listening to our session today, and I hope that you got a fair idea of what business analysis is all about, what is the business analyst role, how one can progress in this particular role, and what is the small foundational training that we have designed specifically how does that look like? So where are we going to, position after you get this course through? So if you're interested, please reach out to us. I will meet you in the next video. Until then, bye and good luck.